It's obviously the question everybody in Cleveland is looking to find the answer to. I think coming out of the offseason, it seems like Deshaun Watson is probably going to be the guy going into training camp as the starter.
Deshaun Watson may not have fully won the Browns quarterback job yet, but according to Joe Thomas, he is walking into training camp with the early advantage, and that alone changes the whole Shedeur Sanders conversation. Because for weeks, Browns fans have been wondering if Cleveland should stop waiting on Watson and just turn the page to the young quarterback. But Joe Thomas made it clear that, right now, Watson still gives the offense something Shedeur does not: experience, athletic ability, a stronger running threat, and a little more freedom to open the playbook. That does not mean Shedeur is out of the race. It just means he has to take the job. Cleveland is not going to hand it to him because of hype. But here is the twist. Even with Joe Thomas leaning toward Watson, nobody is acting like this is completely settled. Many pushed back and said they actually went the other way when asked who would start more games this season. That is what makes this quarterback battle so interesting. One side looks at Watson and sees the veteran with the bigger skill set. The other side looks at Shedeur and sees the younger quarterback who may eventually become the better long-term answer. And the Browns are stuck between those two timelines. Do they trust Watson to give them stability now? Or do they start preparing for Shedeur before the season gets away from them?
I think Deshaun right now just gives that offense a little bit more versatility to be able to open things up and be more dynamic. And I think he'll probably be the guy. If I had to bet who's going to start more games this season for the Browns, it would be Deshaun.
It's funny. I went the other way, and I don't know that we know, and I don't know that Todd Monken knows. I don't know that there is a right answer here.
This is the real issue in Cleveland. Joe Thomas is not saying Shedeur cannot play. He's not saying Shedeur has no chance. He is saying Watson has the advantage right now because of what he can physically do for the offense. Watson can still move. He can still extend plays with his legs. He has played a lot of NFL football. And when a quarterback can threaten the defense as a passer and a runner, the offense becomes harder to defend. That is where Thomas sees the difference. Shedeur can move around to throw, but he's not the same kind of rushing threat. He's not the guy defenses fear on third down because he might take off and steal a first down with his legs. And that matters because the Browns need more than just clean throws in practice. They need an offense that can scare people again. Over the last few years, Cleveland has had too many stretches where the defense had to carry everything because the offense could not consistently score. You cannot win every week like that in the AFC North. The Ravens are not waiting, the Bengals are not waiting, the Steelers are not going to make anything easy. So if Watson really gives the Browns more ways to attack, then it makes sense why Joe Thomas believes he has the...
I think eventually you got to get to a point where, and listen, they may win games with Deshaun. The defense, I think, is still going to be good. I know it's still going to be good. The question is how good. Like, can they actually carry a team good? And the last 2 years, as good as they were, the offense was only scoring 16 points a game, so no defense is that good. Eventually you have to turn to the younger guy.
But this is where Watson's advantage gets complicated. Having the edge in June does not mean you own the job in September. If Watson wins the job and actually plays well, the Browns are not going to bench him just to get younger. That would make no sense. But the key phrase is plays well. Watson cannot just survive. He cannot just be the expensive veteran. He has to move the offense. He has to put points on the board. He has to make the Browns feel like the old investment is finally paying off. Because if he does not, the younger quarterback will become impossible to ignore. That is where Shedeur's path opens up. He does not have to be perfect right now. He just has to keep getting better and force the coaches to keep watching. If Watson is clearly better, then this is simple. But if they are close, the whole conversation changes, because close usually favors the younger quarterback. Close means the team has to ask why it is delaying the future. Close means the fans start saying, if the veteran is not clearly better, let the kid grow. That is the pressure Shedeur brings into the room.
So it's, can he win the job, and how well can he actually play? And being out there last week for minicamp, look, they both at times look really good. For both of them, it just comes down to consistency. And you know this, like, they're in pajamas. It's a glorified passing camp. It's mini camp.
And that word, consistency, is everything. Joe Thomas and Rich Eisen both know minicamp can fool people. Quarterbacks can look good in shorts. Receivers can run clean routes. The defense is not hitting. The pass rush is not real. The pocket is not collapsing the way it will in a real game. So when people try to declare a winner based only on June practice, Thomas basically reminds everybody to slow down. Training camp is where the real evaluation starts. That is when pads come on. That is when pressure becomes more realistic. That is when quarterbacks have to handle chaos instead of just throwing in a controlled environment. That is important for Shedeur too, because his strength has always been toughness, poise, and the ability to stand in and throw when things are not perfect. But the NFL will test that differently. It is one thing to make throws in a glorified passing camp. It's another thing to read pressure, protect the football, control the huddle, and move an offense when defensive linemen are closing fast. If Shedeur wants to close the gap, training camp and preseason are where he can do it, not just by making pretty throws, but by proving he can operate the offense like a starter.
They're in shorts. Like, there are no pads. Like, you can get a feel, I think, for quarterback play, but you can't get a feel for the line. You can't get a feel for what that defense is truly doing against you until you get to camp.
This is why Todd Monken's plan matters so much. He wanted to have some order before training camp, not because the competition was dead, but because a football team needs structure. Receivers need to know who they are working with. Linemen need to hear the cadence. Running backs need timing. Coaches need to split reps properly. If every practice becomes a mystery, the whole offense gets dragged into the quarterback drama. Joe Thomas understood that part clearly. He was not saying competition is bad. He was saying competition has to happen inside a clear structure. And that makes sense. Quarterback battles can become messy fast. Every throw gets judged. Every rep becomes a headline. Every receiver gets asked who looks better. That can wear on a team before the real season even starts. So the Browns have to balance two things at once. They need to give Watson the chance to lead because he has the early advantage, but they also need to give Shedeur enough real work to prove whether he can change the decision. That is a delicate line. If they protect Watson too much, it looks political. If they rush Shedeur too fast, it could hurt his development. The Browns have to get this right.
Yeah, definitely competition is always a good thing. I think Todd's words were more to the line of, we want to have a clear starter going in, so we know how reps are going to be split up to begin training camp, so that all the guys that are going to be working around him, they know who the person is that is going to be under center that they're going to work with. They know the guy that's going to be calling the plays. The receivers have a chance to get ready and prepared for working with Deshaun.
The most important detail from Joe Thomas came near the end. He said Shedeur will probably still get some first-team reps. That matters, because if Watson had completely locked this down, there would be no reason to keep giving Shedeur meaningful work with the starters. Those reps are the opening. That is where Shedeur can make the staff uncomfortable. That is where he can show chemistry with the first offense. That is where he can prove he is not just a backup storyline, but a real option if Watson does not separate. And this is exactly why the title of this debate is not Watson already won. It is Watson has a leg up. That phrase matters. A leg up is not a guarantee. It is an advantage. It means Watson is ahead right now, but he still has to hold that lead. And Shedeur's job is to make the Browns keep questioning it. If he gets first-team reps and looks sharp, the pressure grows. If he handles preseason action better than expected, the pressure grows again. And if Watson looks average while Shedeur looks composed, Cleveland will have a real decision on its hands.
So it's a lot different. Training camp is where you're getting all your work. And I think the rest of that team deserves to know who's first, who's second right now. And then they can split the reps up where Shedeur is going to get probably some of those first-team reps to give him an opportunity to work with that first offense.
That is why this quarterback battle is not just about talent, it is about timing. Watson has the experience, the athletic tools, and the first chance. Shedeur has the momentum of being the young quarterback fans want to see. Watson is trying to prove he can still be the player Cleveland thought it was getting. Shedeur is trying to prove the Browns do not need to wait. And somewhere in the middle, Todd Monken has to build an offense that can actually survive the AFC North. The easy headline is that Joe Thomas believes Watson has the edge, but the deeper story is that the edge can disappear quickly. If Watson looks healthy, explosive, and in control, this competition may calm down fast. But if he looks rusty, hesitant, or inconsistent, every Shedeur rep will feel bigger. Fans will count the completions, reporters will track the reps, the locker room will feel the shift. That is how quarterback battles turn, slowly at first, then all at once.
And then they can find out with true competition who's looking the best. And then maybe after a week or two, they might make a switch depending on how those guys are both playing.
So yes, Joe Thomas gave Deshaun Watson the early advantage. And honestly, that's fair. Watson has played real NFL football. He has the athletic upside. He gives the offense more versatility right now. But Shedeur Sanders is not out of this. If anything, Joe Thomas's comments make the competition feel even more real.
because Watson may start ahead, but Shedeur is still close enough to make training camp matter. That is the pressure Cleveland is walking into. Watson has to prove the Browns can trust him again. Shedeur has to prove he is not just the future, but maybe the present. And if the gap keeps shrinking, the Browns will not be able to hide behind experience for long. Because in the NFL, the starting job belongs to the quarterback who gives the team the best chance to win. Right now, Joe Thomas says Watson has the leg up, but once training camp starts, Shedeur gets his chance to take that leg up away.